All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful story. It's all about resilience, about loss, but more than anything, it's about the incredible force of a single promise. We're going to be talking about a young man named Lucas. This one sentence, it really just sums up his entire journey. It's a story about staring into the abyss and just refusing to let it stare back. So let's do what you do with stories. Let's start right at the beginning. Okay, so let's set the scene. For Lucas, his childhood was, well, it was a world of total contradictions. It was this place where somehow really tough hardship and just simple, pure happiness lived side by side. And this really shows you what I'm talking about. On one hand, you've got the grim reality of it all, right? We're talking a small, cold house. Often, there wasn't enough food to go around. Sometimes dinner was just hot tea. But then, on the other hand, that same house was just filled with something you can't buy, love. I mean, they felt safe. They laughed together. They always had each other's backs. So it was a happy home even when things were incredibly, incredibly tough. But, this fragile balance they had, it wasn't going to last. It was about to be completely shattered. A series of tragedies were about to hit this family, and it would test them in ways they could have never, ever imagined. So first, his father, the one who worked so hard to provide for them, got incredibly sick. And with absolutely no money for a doctor, all they could do was watch, helplessly, as he faded away. After he died, just a crushing silence fell over their home. But it didn't stop there. Fate, it seems, wasn't done. Tragedy struck again when his brother also fell ill. And again, with no money for medicine, the family lost another piece of its heart. That emotional warmth, the very thing that got them through the poverty, it was just ripped apart. Just try to imagine that for a second. You're young, you're poor, and now you're just drowning in grief. What could you possibly do in a situation like that? Well, the answer to that question would end up defining the rest of his entire life. It was simple, really. He made a promise. He looked at his mother and he made a promise that he would work, that he would provide, and that he would pull them out of all this suffering. It was a simple vow, but it became his anchor in a sea of total despair. And his mother, she gave him the key to actually fulfill that promise. Her advice wasn't just work hard, it was work smart. She just knew that education was the only way out. She told him, study Dutch diligently and never, ever give up. And those words, they basically became his life's mantra. So, with that promise made and his mom's words echoing in his head, Lucas set off on this incredibly difficult journey. A journey that was going to demand absolutely everything he had. Just think about his daily life. It was this relentless, brutal cycle. He'd wake up before the sun, go clean streets, carry these heavy bags at the market, and then he'd work for hours in this loud, dark factory where his hands and his back were just constantly aching. But here's the thing, when his body was completely exhausted, that's when his mind took over. He'd study Dutch from these old, yellowed books late into the night, often with just one tiny lamp. And the price he paid, it wasn't just physical. He was in love with this girl, Anne. But her parents, who were wealthy, they absolutely forbade the marriage. They told him to his face, "You're too poor. You can't give our daughter the kind of life she deserves." So on top of everything else he was going through, his heart was just broken. Another casualty of the poverty he was fighting so hard to escape. So, years went by like this, just this grueling, day in, day out existence. It must have felt like nothing was ever going to change. But then, on just a totally ordinary day in that factory, something pretty extraordinary happened. And this, right here, this is the perfect definition of opportunity, isn't it? It's not just some random luck. It's when all those years of quiet, unseen hard work finally slam right into the perfect moment. It's such a powerful reminder that you don't just wait around for your big break, you build it, piece by piece, day by day, so that when it finally shows up, you're ready. Okay, so the factory owner, a guy named Mr. DeVries, he's walking through the factory floor, and over all the noise of the machines, he hears Lucas speaking Dutch, and not just a little, but clear, confident Dutch with another worker. He was stunned. He walks over and asks Lucas, "Where did you learn to speak like that?" And when Lucas explained that he taught himself, studying every single night after a full day's work, Mr. DeVries was just blown away. He didn't just see a worker anymore. He saw a man with incredible talent and an absolutely unstoppable will. And that one moment, that discovery, it changed everything. I mean, look at this. His path from there was just straight up. Mr. DeVries promoted him immediately, got him a job in the quiet, clean office. And Lucas, he poured that same relentless energy into this new role, just soaking up everything he could learn. Over the years, he earned the man's complete trust, became this absolutely vital employee, until finally, one day, Mr. DeVries calls him into his office and names him the new boss of the entire company. So now Lucas has achieved this unimaginable success, right? He's wealthy, he's powerful. But the story, it doesn't end there, not even close. Because through it all, he never, ever forgot the promise that started this whole journey. And this is so important to get. Even with all the success, the money, the power, the memory of his mother's tired face and that promise he made to her, that was still his true north. That was his real driving force. So what did he do? He took his money and bought a beautiful house, spacious, full of light. And one day, he walked his mother and his sister right up to the front door. He opened it, and all he said was, "This is our new house." You can just imagine. They wept with joy. He had kept his promise. They were finally safe. But keeping that promise to his family, that was just the beginning. See, he looked at the poor children on the streets and he saw himself. So he started by giving them books and food. Then he built schools. He created scholarships so that other students wouldn't have to make that impossible choice between work and education. He provided homes for families. He basically used all of his wealth to create the kinds of opportunities for other people that he never had himself. And why did he do all this? Because he never tried to run away from his past. Not at all. Instead, he let it be his teacher. The memory of being hungry, of being cold, of all that loss, for him, it wasn't something to be bitter about. It became this deep well of empathy that guided every single thing he did for the rest of his life. So Lucas's story, it started with a single promise, made in a moment of total darkness. And that promise guided him through every hardship and ended up shaping this incredible legacy of kindness, which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What promise, whether you've said it out loud or just kept it